Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Children of Divorce. I'm your host, Lydia, and I'm so happy to have you here today. For those of you that are watching the video, I do look like a tampon. I'm fully aware of that, and I'm completely obsessed with it. And I don't want to hear any other words or remarks. I have told everyone today that I've run into that I look like a tampon, and I think it's slightly disturbing for them, but I don't really mind. Anyways, today I woke up this morning and I thought, I don't know how I'm going to get out of bed today. I was feeling really low. I was feeling like I didn't know my purpose today, like I didn't know my purpose tomorrow or the day after that. And I got out of bed to have breakfast. And then I went back into bed and I thought, I still don't know how I'm going to get out, what I want to do today, all these things. But I did. It happened. You get out of bed. And I went to do hot yoga, which is what has inspired today's episode, because I'm going to be speaking about how I personally am building a healthy relationship with exercise. And we're going to speak a little bit about my past relationship with exercise. I definitely abused exercise in the past. I had a really intense eating disorder. But exercise addiction and eating disorder are actually separate. It's just like the two often intertwine, right? And they often go hand in hand together. But you don't need to have an exercise addiction to have an eating disorder, nor do you need to have an eating disorder to have an exercise addiction. But they're just like peanut butter and jelly, if you don't mind the pun. But they go together like that. So yeah, we're going to speak about all of that stuff. And yeah, just also a quick note, because I've decided each episode I'm going to do a little bit of de-influencing. Okay, yeah, I'm in my matching set and I'm on my cute bed, but I literally just did hot yoga, okay? These leggings are like wet and they're on my bed. So for those of you that have a thing against like outside clothes, like being inside on the bed, I'm sorry, because this is probably triggering you. And I will wash it. Both the bed and my clothes at some point in the future, okay? I'm just gonna grab some water. Because when you do hot yoga, you literally sweat. I'm like a prune afterwards. Like all the water is taken out of me. I think we should start by talking about my relationship with exercise when I was young, right? Like a kid before my eating disorder developed, which was around the age of 10, 11. So I was a very active kid. My parents signed me up for a lot of sports, but I also loved sports. I loved dance. I did gymnastics. I did dance class. I did netball, which is like an English girls basketball, for those of you that don't know about it, because now that I'm here in the States at college, a lot of people don't know what netball was. And I'm like, I was on the netball team, and they're like, what on earth does that mean? What even is that? And I have to explain to people that it's like a ball sport, but you're not allowed to move with the ball, and they look at us like really confused. Anyways, I did netball, I did lacrosse, I did hockey, I did all the sports. I was a swimmer. I swam like 4 times a week. So I was a very active kid. I really liked being active too. I was, my friends and I were always playing, and I never looked at activity like as a way to burn calories or anything like that. I just loved to move, I think a lot of kids are very active, right? We play, all those different things. So I don't think that's like abnormal or something that was inherently like special for me. It was just, it's just what being a kid is. You're active, you have energy, you want to live life, you want to do things. And then on top of that, my parents like to sign me up for a lot of sports. And so yeah, then my eating disorder started when I was 10. I had bulimia primarily, but also throughout the year struggled with both binge eating disorder and anorexia nervosa. So the trifecta, as I like to call it, the holy trinity. Not really. But yeah, I think my relationship with exercise changed significantly, during my earlier years, from the age of 11 to 13, when my eating disorder was still kind of subconscious a little bit. And what I mean by that is it didn't really take over my mind. I didn't really understand what it was. I was obviously insecure about my body and things like that, but it wasn't the forefront of everything, if that makes sense. I was also a kid, so I didn't really understand what this coping mechanism I had was. I mean, I barely knew the name. I knew I had issues, maybe, but it was all kind of subconscious. It was just a thing I did. And so I still was very active at school. I still really enjoyed all my activities, and I didn't look at exercise or the activities I was doing in a harmful or negative way. The only thing I started to have an unhealthy relationship with at the time was walking. And I don't think we talk about this enough because, everywhere now, it's like, go on a walk. But like, walking was a really big thing for me. Walking was actually something that I abused, I think, from a really young age. And I've really had to heal my relationship with walking, which is funny because it's something that we just do as humans, right? We walk. But I think from a young age, I kind of started to be, I would leave my dance class an hour early so I could walk home from dance class. And dance class was about an hour and a half walk from my house. So I would leave an hour early, just so I would have enough time to walk home without my parents being like, where on earth is she? It was farther, actually. My mom's place was about an hour. My dad's place was about a 2-hour walk from my dance class. So maybe I would even leave earlier when I was at my dad's and I would have to walk back from the dance studio. But I think, it was something I enjoyed a lot, but also something I think I abused a little bit. And so that was the only thing between the age of 11 and 13 that was the only area where I started to kind of have a negative relationship with exercise. Then, when I was 14, it was COVID 2020. Okay, and I think this is a common experience that for all of us, that our relationship with exercise got significantly harmful during COVID 2020. I don't know about you guys, but my relationship with exercise deteriorated completely. Because first of all, I was 14, had an eating disorder. Eating disorder was getting worse. And at the time also, there was a lot of emphasis online, right? Like lockdown, glow up, things like that. And so I was obsessed. I was looking online and I saw, all the things about Chloe Ting. But for me, what I really abused during COVID 2020 was running. Running, I abused heavily. I had this park nearby my house called Battersea Park, and I would force myself to run loops and loops and loops, and in my head I would I'll think about how your legs are going to look in those shorts or whatever. And I just want to break down here how this is an unhealthy relationship with running and exercise. Okay, first of all, primarily my intention every run was not to feel good, was I needed to go for my body. That is the first way we can see that this was an unhealthy relationship with exercise. Secondly, I was pushing myself way too much and way too hard. It was not clever what I was doing. For every day for a month, was going out on these intense, really crazy long runs that that long term were not going to work, right? And so that's another way that we can see that this was not a healthy relationship with exercise, because it was not something sustainable that I could build upon. It was clearly something I was used to punish myself. I wasn't treating my body with kindness by making myself run like that every single day. And third of all, the way I would speak to myself on the runs is also something else. I would be like, think about how your legs are going to look in those shorts, or just keep going, or, you need to burn off this food, or all these things. And so that's also a way that exercise addiction intertwines with eating disorder and bulimia, because bulimia also involves when you use exercise to burn off food. So it's all kind of intertwined in a way. And my bulimia during COVID 2020 lockdown was very, very bad, because it was pretty bad from that point onwards until I recovered when I was 19. But what I mean is that it got significantly worse during that period because I was at home all the time and I didn't have anything else to focus on. and also I was growing into, those were really formative years. I was, becoming an older teenager and really becoming conscious of my body and my issues and my trauma and an eating disorder at the end of the day, and exercise addiction and this obsession with our body image is a coping mechanism. I've learned that from my recovery, that it's never about the body, because at one point logic and reason just go completely out the door, and if you just look at the facts, it's not about the body. But that's another podcast episode. I said this in my last episode, I'm going to say it again. I think we need to quote me now. Every single time I'm just like, oh, that's the next podcast episode, but it's because otherwise I literally will not stop speaking to you, and we're going to get confused because I'm going to bring in so many topics, so I need to kind of stay focused and stay clear on the topic today, which is exercise addiction. But overall, wrapping that up, that period of my life when I abused exercise heavily, which ultimately I could not sustain running every day that long, and that deteriorated, and I would say I kind of classify that more as like a really intense period of my exercise addiction and abuse. And it didn't exist like that for 4 years, but that my relationship with exercise changed, and there were different phases of it, and there were phases where it was really intense like that, and then more muted, and I would just be more focused on walking and things like that. There were times when my eating disorder was more intense, and I was like, I remember when I was like 16, 17, I was like, exercise doesn't really matter. I just need to focus on the food all the time. And I was like, it doesn't really matter how much I'm moving my body. The food really, really matters. And I was really obsessed with just food and what was going into my body, and, the bulimia and all these things. So I guess I'm trying to say that it doesn't have to exist for 5 years for you to have a problem with exercise addiction. It also doesn't mean that you have to be running 20 kilometers or half a marathon every day for a super long period of time for you to have a problem with exercise. It's about your mindset and your relationship towards exercise, and it can look different throughout the years, but ultimately if it's unhealthy, it's unhealthy, and it's going to show up like that. So when I was 14, that was one example of when I was really abusing my body. And then throughout the years, I focused more on the eating disorder. I always have abused walking in some form. After the running era, the running era stopped. I definitely did abuse walking. I always was checking my steps. So when I was taking the tube home from school, or the subway, when I was taking the tube home, I would stop like 2 stops away from where I would usually get off, so that I would be able to walk for like an extra half an hour home. I would do that in order to increase my steps and things like that. Even small things like when I was on the tube, I would sometimes even feel guilty for sitting instead of for standing and things like that. So there are so many different small ways that exercise addiction can pop up, and it doesn't matter how small or how big or how much you can see it. It's all about your mindset and how you view exercise. And so I really want to place emphasis there. You don't have to be doing a triathlon for you to have a problem with exercise. Oh, this is just a side note, but sometimes I literally have to stop talking because I'm filming in my college dorm, okay? And I hear people in the corridor because I live right across the boys' bathroom and also the bin room. And it's horrible. Like, not horrible, but it's horrible because there's a lot of traction here and people are coming through, and I'm in my room speaking about exercise addiction, okay? And you know what? I'm just gonna accept it and do it loud and proud, okay? And maybe they'll find it useful, okay? Maybe they'll want to hear, but can everyone just leave this corridor alone for like half an hour? Just give me my space and time, please. So my relationship with exercise has changed throughout the years, and I'm thinking back to the time last year, or about a year and a half ago, when I started to really abuse running and exercise again. You know, my eating disorder was probably at its worst at the time. And for those of you that don't know, so my brief story is I finished high school when I was 18. And I took a gap year before I was going to come to college in the States. And during that gap year, I ended up hospitalized for my eating disorder. It reached a really big low. But I'm doing great now, okay? And I literally a year ago didn't even believe that I would be able to make it out of it. And now I'm here, happy and healthy. And I just want to be a message of hope, a message that recovery is possible. And I know that there's a lot of eating disorder recovery content out there right now. And I was an avid consumer of like eating disorder recovery and like eating disorder recovery content and like following a lot of different influencers. And I think there's this classic pipeline of like recovering from an eating disorder to gym girl. And I mean, I think it's broadcasted a lot online right now. And there are some people that are really inspiring people that I love to watch. Like, I really love to watch Linda Sun. I think she is such a great influence for young girls and for young girls' relationships with exercise and food. But there are also some people out there that are, falling back into a different kind of eating disorder. And I just want to put it out there that you don't need to have this crazy relationship with exercise or be this gym girl after you recover from an eating disorder. You can just like go to hot yoga like sometimes, okay, and like play and do like a workout class with friends, and it can be really chill, but you don't have to all of a sudden be running like marathons. I think that's been this like crazy pipeline for a lot of people that are recovering from eating disorders. And I think, what if we were just like in a happy, healthy body and we just like had used exercise for fun and that was it? Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there as well, because I think it's been getting really toxic out there. And, there's a lot of pressure right now about running. It seems like the whole world is running. All the influencers and podcasters I listen to also are like runners, and they tell me to go running, and you know what? I don't. Because I don't want to. I've had an unhealthy relationship with running throughout the years, as I've explained. And I tried now that I'm recovered, I've tried to go on a run or two. And it just doesn't do much for me, to be honest. Like, it's fun every once in a while, maybe once a month, but I don't feel the urge to train for a marathon. And I know like people out there saying, but try it. It's great, it changed my life. Great for them, but I don't think but it might not change my life. It might not change your life. It might not be your thing. Like, we don't all have to do it. There's a reason why there are so many different things in this world, okay? There's so many different ways to exercise and have fun. You don't have to be a runner. Okay, do hot yoga or go ice skating, or there are so many different activities to try. You don't have to be doing what everyone else is doing. Find what works for you, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and tell you to do hot yoga because that's what works for me. I want you to go out and find what works for you and what kind of movement is good for your body. But the other thing I'm going to say is take my advice and everyone else's advice with a pinch of salt. A year ago, right, I was really sick with an eating disorder. I was really depressed. I was really not well mentally. And then you would listen to podcasts or you would scroll on Instagram, okay, and there would be a reel of someone saying, get your lazy ass out of bed and get to the gym, and that's how you'll do better in life because you need to be more disciplined. Do you think if he had the context of me and my experience and my 9-year-long eating disorder, do you think that guy or that girl, whoever I was watching, would be giving me the same advice? No, they wouldn't. They would not. I mean, if they are a kind, decent person with a brain cell, they would not. Okay, because this advice that people give out, it's generalized. Okay, they don't. If they actually knew your context, your background, your surroundings, I would be in the fucking eating disorder. I would be in the fucking eating disorder unit, scrolling on reels. And all of a sudden a reel would pop up and it would be like, you know what really helped is like, I started running and I ran every day. And, you know, recommending to me to go running every day. And do you think if that girl knew the context of where I was at the time, my background, do you think she would be giving me the same advice? No, she would not at all. So what I mean is, take it with a pinch of salt, because people don't know your background, your specifications, and ultimately you know what's best for you. It doesn't matter what other people are saying. Oh, do this, run there, blah, 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 blah. Block out the noise, okay? Because it's too much and it gets to you. And it can, ultimately, you guys, we are on our own path. And people are going to come. They're going to come and they're going to try to take us off our path or say, oh, look at this. Those are the challenges. Those are the challenges in life, right? Those are the tests that try to take us off our path. But we're on our own path. It doesn't matter what other people are doing, what other people are running, how much other people are running or exercising. You are you. You need to focus on building your relationship with yourself, having a healthy relationship with yourself, your body. If that works for them, great. But it doesn't work for me, okay? And also, things are timely, right? Things happen in the right timing. Maybe I'm meant to get into running in 10 years. Okay, maybe I'll feel like going on a run or training for some kind of race in 10 years. Maybe that's it. But right now I don't feel like it. So I'm not gonna pressure myself to do that. Sorry, I'm very passionate about this because there's all this noise out there and it's getting kind of crazy. People are losing their shit and people are just going off the rails and working themselves up into this frenzy. And what about inner peace, okay? What about inner peace? What about having a healthy relationship with ourselves, with food, with exercise? What about all of those things? Okay? So yeah, I want to speak a little bit about how the past 8 months I've really been strengthening and building a super healthy relationship with exercise from someone that had a terrible relationship with one, and also someone growing up in a world that is currently obsessed with fitness, Ozempic, and exercise. I want to be the voice of reason here. Dressed like a tampon, I want to be the voice of reason, okay? Because all this noise, not in here. Not in this room of safety, of calmness, of inner peace. Okay, first of all, the intention. There is one question I like to ask myself every single time before I work out and I go to a class. Before I go to my hot yoga, before I play tennis with a friend, before sometimes my friends will go to the gym here and I'll just follow them around and I'll do their workout. And there's one question I like to ask myself, which is, if this doesn't change my body at all, like if this didn't have any impact on my body, my physique, would I still do it? And if the answer is yes, then that's great. That's great, because that means you have the intention of going in there for yourself, your body, for your mind and your soul, right? You're going in there for your mind and your soul, because exercise is great. I mean, I'm not the first person to say that. There's a reason why, I'm obsessed with yoga right now, but there's a reason why yoga is so embedded in Indian culture and people are obsessed with running and all these different things. There's a reason, because exercise is good for the brain, and all these big CEOs are obsessed with the gym. There's a reason that I'm not discrediting that. So intention is one thing. Second thing is, if I skip today, if I don't make it to my class today, or my workout, or on the walk that I wanted to go on, if I'm not able to do that today, am I gonna be okay? And sometimes I like to test myself and make sure I'm still having a healthy relationship with exercise, and that I do 2 rest days, 3 rest days, 3 days where I don't exercise. I go on holiday. For Christmas, I went back home to London. Yeah, if you guys don't know where I'm from, I was born and raised in London. I'm a London girl. You know, I don't have my studio there. I was at my dad's, so I had to establish like my new like little walking route that I would do, and all these different things. Am I practicing flexibility with exercise? Practicing, if someone offers you a ride somewhere, saying yes, being happy to be driven somewhere instead of feeling this urge to walk there instead. I had that. With friends, if you're going out, okay, being comfortable just Ubering to the place, not needing to walk there, sitting down when you can sit down, not, if someone offers to carry some heavy things for you, let them carry the heavy things for you. Just not treating everything physical like it's exercise, because I definitely was there. I mean, I would be carrying my suitcase around the airport and think, wow, like this is exercise, which is a bizarre mindset to have around this. So just practicing flexibility all the time. Every single time, test yourself a little bit. Oh, I'm not going to walk today. Cool. And there's a lot of emphasis nowadays with consistency and routine, and you also just have to take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, you're practicing consistency towards having a healthy relationship with yourself, food, and your body, and exercise. That's the consistency that's important. Block out the noise. That's what I practice consistency towards. Am I having my 3 meals and 3 snacks a day? Okay? Am I practicing flexibility all the time? Am I consistent with that practice? That's my consistency. That's my self-discipline. Okay? Self-discipline, I don't love that phrase, because I think it's really, I think it's toxic. You know, I'm not discrediting the fact that we can just sit down. Like this morning, I wanted to just lay in bed all day, and I'm not discrediting the fact that, you know, we need to do things with our lives in order to go places, in order to meet people. We need to put ourselves out there. You know, I needed to get myself into the dining hall and get myself that blueberry muffin, and then I ran into a friend, right? We need to do that kind of stuff. But self-discipline, I just don't. Be kind to yourselves first. Be kind to yourselves. Everything else follows, right? You're doing the right thing. If you love yourself, if you love your body, or you treat your body with kindness, because, you know, I understand how it's hard to say, I love my body. But honestly, guys, this week, I've looked at myself every day in the mirror, and I thought, I love my body. I think I'm great. I love my stomach. I love that I'm softer, and I love that I'm curvier, and I love that I'm happier, and I love that my belly is filled with French toast, and yogurt and sunflower seed butter. Okay, I love those things, and I want to put that out, that all of that is possible for you guys too, right? Coming from the girl that literally did not think recovering from an eating disorder was possible. I was looking at these statistics, right, that X amount of people die from an eating disorder, which are really morbid statistics. And I thought, what if it's me? Like, or X amount of people don't recover from the eating disorder. I thought, what if it's me? But the thing with statistics, guys, is we have the power to change them. Statistics, and I've said this in past episodes, but statistics are just calculations of what currently exists, but we can change that. It doesn't have to stay like that. The statistic doesn't have to stay there, that X amount of people recover from the eating disorder, recover from a bad relationship with exercise. We can change that. We can work towards having a more beautiful, well-rounded world with healthy, happy individuals. We can. And last remark about building a healthy relationship with exercise. is it should be fun, right? You should have a cute workout set and you should have friends to go with. Or, I mean, I don't really have friends that I go with to workout classes. I'm still working on the friends part. But, but you know, it can be social. In the gym, it's more you go just to be around people for a bit. Like, it should be fun. A run to a bakery, right? A run to a clothing store. I don't know, a cute walk in a cute area and you dress up in your like super cute outfit. Like, it should be fun. It should be enjoyable. It really should be. It should never feel. It's got to be fun. That's my rule. It's got to be fun. It's got to be enjoyable. Don't get me wrong. When I'm planking in yoga, I might cuss out the instructor a little bit, but I mean, I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I do have fun. I love to go and socialize with the people there. It is fun for me. And I love that feeling when you're so sweaty. But I don't want you guys to compare yourselves to me and my tampon yoga set. Okay? This is the stage of my life that I'm in. I'm almost a year out of an eating disorder unit. I'm in a happy, healthy body. I have a period. And I've worked really hard to build slowly a healthy relationship with exercise. Your relationship is going to look different to mine. Okay, and I just want to put that out there, that I'm not saying do this. I'm just telling you guys a little bit about my relationship with exercise and how I got there and about my past. And I'm sure I'm going to film way more episodes about this because it is so prevalent and it's such a big issue right now in today's world because there's so much noise online. But yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys got something out of this episode. I hope you're treating yourselves with kindness. You're treating your bodies with kindness. Take a rest if you need one. Be consistent towards your relationship with yourself, okay? What kind of relationship are you building with yourself? Take everything you see online with a pinch of salt, okay? Because they don't know your circumstances. They don't know how you were brought up, your past, what issues you're struggling with right now. So take it all with a pinch of salt, okay? I love you guys. Look after yourselves. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of Children of Divorce, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!